So today we decided to go to Prison Island and the Tortoise Sanctuary. We decided to go to Stone Town and make our way across the waters by ourselves rather than organise a talk package, but we did have a friend with us to help us. There were some taxes to pay at the dock, and it's about $3 or $4 each before we could cross the waters, and then we found a boat that agreed to take us across to the Prison Island, also known as Changuu Island. There are lots of tour operators available that can take you there. I think they cost anywhere between 50 and 120 US dollars. But I just wanted to see how and if we can do it on our own without the tour guide and some help. The journey from Stone Town to Changuu Island or Prison Island is about 3.5 miles, and it takes about 40 minutes to get there. We walked into the water onto the boat and made our way. The waters were a little bit rocky, but we got there safely. There were 2 islands on either side of us, and it was a centre island, originally known by the Swahili term Changuu Island, that we wanted to go to. That's where the tourist attraction is. As we arrived, we had to pay a further $4 each, which were the entrance fees for the Prison Island and the Tortoise Sanctuary. And it's classic Zanzibar architecture, very old, and there was a lot of nature there. Surprisingly, there were some peacocks which are all owned by the government. The peacock is the national bird for the area, and there were lots of them around, and they were so beautiful and very, very friendly and fairly unafraid of all the humans walking by. On this day it was a little bit rainy, so we just had to be wary of the rain. This is our friend Bilal, who showed us around. The actual Prison Island was never actually truly used as a prison. It was largely uninhabited up until the 1860s, and at that point the owners or the Sultan at the time gave it to 2 Arabs who used it for naughty slaves who weren't behaving, or rebellious slaves during the slave trade. So that's a bit of history which I'll go back to, but these are the beautiful peacocks dotted around everywhere, really brightly coloured. Like I said, they were really unafraid of all the humans that were around. There were also deer. The deer were small compared to the deer that I'm used to. I think this is a baby deer, but even the adult deers were very, very small and bouncing around everywhere. One of the peacocks decided to show off for us, or probably was scared of us despite what I've been saying, and here's one making some noises, which was quite interesting to see. The nature is probably what attracted me most to the island. The island itself is more of a leisure or organised for tourists to come in. It's not massively well maintained. This is the original door to prison, to the actual building. It's very, very old, and you can touch it and it is falling apart. It's a shame it's not being fixed, but it's not actually being in use. It's just there for decor, but it's very nice to see and being able to feel there. As we walk through the actual building area, you can see where the guards keep a close eye on the people.
Watch guard.
So these are the areas that the guards were originally present to keep a close eye on people coming in and out. Unfortunately, this is a remnant of the old slaves where they were tied down, and there were many slaves tied down here until it was taken over by some British people who organised it or built a prison to be used as a prison. However, it was never really used as a prison. Outside, the waters were really crystal clear. You couldn't really get into the water at this point, but there were lots of tourists around from all over the world who were visiting, and I think this is one of the main attractions of Zanzibar, which people say if you haven't been to Prison Island, you haven't really visited the area. But it was really beautiful, as the rest of Zanzibar is. Nice crystal clear waters despite the weather. And these are other remnants of the old building. So this was my favourite part, where we saw the tortoise sanctuary. There were lots of huge tortoises, and I really did underestimate how big they were going to be. They were massive, and you really have to be there. They were walking around slowly, and it was not just one or two, there were hundreds of them. So while we were there, a couple of tortoises decided to do their thing in front of us, which was quite interesting to watch. They were just showing off. Just a bit of history. The tortoises were given to the British as a gift from the Seychelles. They were an endangered species, but now they are vulnerable due to the fact that they're able to do this act and produce more tortoises. So well done, guys, you're increasing the chances of survival. Despite being fairly slow moving, some of them, when they do move, they move very, very fast. Anyway, I do feel like I'm violating a private moment here, but as soon as this is over, and it is over sort of quickly, our lady tortoise decides to run away, and our gentleman tortoise decides to fall asleep, literally fall asleep, and these are our giant tortoises. There are so many of them. You can feed them, and unfortunately in this sanctuary, it's one of those places where they continuously ask for money. They do ask for money to feed the tortoises, which you can do. You can give them as you walk out, but it's a real pleasure to see them. They are behind bars or behind wooden gates, but they slowly walk out of the wooden gates, and they're in the path, so you can touch them and take pictures of them. Some of them do bite, but I was never bitten by any of them. But like I said, there are lots of them, and they are absolutely ginormous, hence the name giant tortoise. So I think that was my favourite part of the actual tour, and we probably spent most of our time in the tortoise sanctuary, which was really nice. Here are many more. The oldest one is around 167 years old. You can tell by how many rings they have on their back, and their age is painted on their shell. So that concluded our tour. We slowly walked back to our boat. Our boat transfer cost $35. So without a guide, it costs about $45, but I would recommend a guide.